I am very honored to be with Aneesa Muthana, co-owner and president of Pioneer Service Incorporated in Addison, Illinois. Welcome back to the show, Aneesa.
Thank you, Noah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this really great to have her. She uh, is one of my favorite podcast interviews. I mean, I like them all, but just such a you're one of the smartest people I've met in this business, I have to
Oh,
say.
thank you. That's a
Um,
lot.
so this is the show about the number one question on everybody's mind. So we need to um, talk to some people who, I mean, I think, uh, I think you're doing well in this department, but we'll find out. This season is about finding people and how to maintain the people once you find them. Um, so, um, but first, before we go in anything, I just want to get a brief background on the company and 2-minute life story, and then we'll go into the nitty gritty just so people have a
Sure.
little context.
Sure. So Pioneer Service has been established since 1990. I joined in 93, and Precision Machine Parts. So we're a contract manufacturer of that. We mostly have Swiss machines. We have currently 25 and two turning centers and all brand new equipment. Transformed the company from old manufacturing to new modern high tech in the last, I would say, 7 years, and have been very successful. We sell parts to aerospace, medical device, biotech, electrical vehicles, electrical helicopters, and trucks now, which is really awesome. And part of that obviously would be Tesla. And
Nice.
yeah, we've been doing that. That was actually, we were tier two since 2014, as soon as we were Swiss. And that has helped us grow our company and diversify as well. You know, we are AS9100, so we do sell parts for aerospace, but we also use that certification to give peace of mind to other industries, because once you're AS9100, it's basically that's the foot in the door as far as qualifications, capabilities for most companies.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that that one qualification people would go, oh, well, if you can do that, you can do this.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's helped us a lot. And I've actually mentored a lot of other co-owners, owners of companies in manufacturing, recommended it, and they found the same thing. They're like, as soon as we got our AS9100 certification, we were able to win business that we weren't able to win before.
So what
And
business could you win that you didn't have before or after you got?
so, you know, you're like medical device. There's also the medical industry that, you know, when you're doing parts for them, the IS 13485, I believe. But
Mhm.
we don't have that. But if you don't need that certification, a lot of the medical device companies don't require that. So if you have the AS
Mm.
9100, it eliminates them having to come and audit you many times. And then if you're making their lives easier and filling out the forms, and they see that you have processes locked down, which you would have to have it if you are AS9100, then that gives them the peace of mind. It's not just a
So
certification.
this allows you to do medical work then, even
Yes.
though you don't have the medical certification.
Hmm.
Is the aerospace one harder to get than the medical one?
They're about the same. That's what I've heard. I think AS actually is a little bit harder. I was going to go for the 13485 this year, but because of COVID, we put it back. We put it on the back burner for next time.
Interesting. All
But
right.
I,
Well,
I got the
that
best
sounds like a whole
compliment
nother
ever.
show.
Yeah, I got the best compliment from the auditor. He's like, if you were a public company, I would buy stocks. I was like, can I quote you? And he's like, absolutely. So I put it on LinkedIn like the very next day.
That's an
I was more
amazing
excited about
compliment.
that than the certification. It's like, because he
Wow.
basically sees everything when he comes in. He audits every department, sees all our processes. So that if and he was not like, you know, just, he was a hardcore auditor. He's not just like anyone. So it
Wow.
was very rewarding for me and my team.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, So uh, then just, yeah, give me the Cliff Notes version. You grew up family business,
Yeah,
related industry. We
yeah.
talked all about this in the last podcast. It's a wonderful story. We need just the real just the
The
highlights.
highlights. I was 11 years old. That's the DCFS was not called, thankfully.
Eh.
So my dad got away with it. Um, so my parents opened up a machine shop when I was 11 years old, and I was on the shop floor cleaning out tanks. And if anybody out there knows about centerless grinders and the tanks and the what's involved in cleaning that out, they'll appreciate what I did. And then when my dad came back from an auction, he had centerless grinders and he had desks, and I got a desk to sand down, and my brothers got centerless grinders to, they were being trained how to run them, how to set it up, how to check the bars. And I was so envious of it. And so when I was 13, my father allowed me to grind bars, and I would not go back into the office. He would be like, go answer phones, go file, go type up this quote. I'm like, no, I want to feed bars. And I had actually two machines. I was feed pull, but automation before automation was available. So I was just like, I wanted to prove everyone wrong, and obviously sibling rivalry a little bit too. But then I ended up going into the office and working and being in charge of not only sales, but the money part of the business until I was 23. And then I left my dad's company and went into partnership with my uncle, who already had Pioneer Service in 1990.
Hmm.
And initially, I just came to help out, and then he just kept, enticing me, being a partner. And, the dynamics, the family dynamics have always been, something that I'm sure everyone out there can relate to if they work in a family business. So I saw myself really not climbing the ladder at my dad's company, and an opportunity to just, prove myself at my uncle's. And so my one and only condition was that you would be my silent partner, and I would be completely responsible for everything. And my uncle was like a second father to me. We used to run, I used to feed his bars at M&M where he worked as well. And he was like, where's the, where's my side? Like, what do I have to do to get that? I said, all you have to do is be my silent partner and I'll do all the work. And he's like, okay. And that was 1993. It's 2021 and it's still going great. Let me tell you.
Wow,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yep.
Um, okay. Uh, well, great. So now we're going to get into what we're talking about this season. Finding good people.
Mm.
Um, my assumption, just talking to lots of our customers, I'm guessing you guys are crushing it right now.
It's very busy. It's manufacturing's time, finally. I think COVID has proven that manufacturing can step up and can transition, making parts for ventilators, obviously. And not just me, like this was many shops converted their machines from parts for whatever industry they were serving to parts for ventilators. And we were actually making parts for biotech industry for the scientists looking for the vaccine. So it was like,
Wow.
yes. So it was,
So
it
did that
wasn't.
open up a whole new space for you
So
for
we were
later?
making parts for the biotech industry prior to COVID. But when COVID hit, we were contacted by our top customers who were making ventilator parts, and these were like about 5 total customers, and we were asked to come down in pricing. So it was not nearly as lucrative, but I was grateful for being in that space. It's something that you're going to look back at later and be like, when COVID hit, we didn't close our doors, we didn't furlough our employees, and we were making parts for the biotech and medical industry. Like, that's a story I want to tell. And
That
I,
is true.
yeah, yeah. And so I'm happy. And it's, obviously the aftermath is, when it first hit, like when the governor came out and said we're shutting down businesses, I was planning on abiding by that. And immediately I found out that we were actually shipping parts that day for ventilators that I didn't even know we were shipping parts for ventilators. We knew it was medical, but we didn't know what part of medical. And so our customers were calling us and
Mm.
don't shut down, don't shut down. We need parts. And so I realized that probably about over 70% of my customers were, like one in particular, the Tesla customer, was closing shop. They were like, we're not taking any of our orders, any of our releases. It's going to be put on hold. It ended up being over 6 months for them. And other customers very similar for industrial, like all different types of industries that we were serving. And so we, in the beginning, we were like, okay, even before the governor spoke, these states are shutting down and shutting down our orders. So it was kind of like, how are we going to, pay the bills? How are we going to pay everyone when all of these orders are on hold? So I made a decision. Even my management team was like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, I'm not furloughing anyone. We're not cutting overtime. We're continuing business as usual. We're going to make parts. We're going to lock down processes. We're going to write out work instructions. We're going to put
Mhm.
parts into stock. When they're ready, we'll be ready. And so I was willing to do that because I didn't want to give even one more layer of instability to my team. And,
Mm.
being, a centerless grinder's daughter, both my parents worked in machine shops for many years in my childhood. I didn't want to be that employer. So I made a conscious effort. And then the parts came back from biomedical and medical devices. And then PPP was available. So all of that together, I felt like, you know what? I made the right decision and I'm reaping the benefits of that.
Right. Right. And right, because you kept everybody, and so you
Mhm.
have the people you need, and now the machining industry is just, it's just crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. It's very crazy, but good crazy.
Good crazy.
Good crazy.
Um so okay, some we talk to many people and they complain about, government handout, people don't want to work, etc. Like, that's not a problem for you anyways because you already had the good people, I guess.
Mm-mm. It's a problem. It's a problem. It's always a problem. I don't think any manufacturer will say otherwise. If they are, I don't know what they're
What's
doing.
always a problem?
People, people,
Yeah.
finding good people, keeping good people. We are in a very cutthroat business. I have competitors literally at my door waiting for me to blink and offering, and sometimes, unfortunately, my employees are nearsighted. They forget what we just went through and what I just did for them. The training, I had an engineer right out of college. I hired him as an intern. And after a few years, after training him, sending him to Texas for training of the ERP system, taking him to leadership training, I could not have invested more in an employee. And I do this not just for him, but he was one of my, I would say, trophy employees because it was like literally no manufacturing experience.
Uh-huh.
And you know, disagreement here and there with one of the managers. And he just felt like, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere else. Just like that. And it was like, really? No, no, really? It's like, how? Couldn't believe it. But then I was at one of my colleagues, one of my actually competitors was talking in this room. We were all
PMPA.
together, PMPA. And but I don't want to say who it was, but anyway, he was complaining about an engineer. And he was like, we have an engineer.
Somebody in Chicago.
No, don't narrow it down because I'm not saying
I
anymore.
know, I'm joking.
Okay. He sent his engineer for training outside. And then the company that he sent his engineer for training for programming, all right, how to run how to program a CNC turning center. And like 2 weeks later, they called. They're like, when are you sending your engineer? The class is almost over. He's like, what are you talking about? He's on my payroll. He hasn't shown up. The engineer never showed up for the training. And when he told me that, I'm like, oh, I don't have it so bad. So this colleague of mine, and this is not like minimum wage. This is not like hard manufacturing. This is like engineering, sitting behind a desk,
Mm-hmm.
or working on I don't know, CAD, CAM all day long. It's not obviously not easy work. It is difficult work, but it's not like hard labor.
Yeah.
um so this is a career, and what are you doing? So when he told me that, then I'm like, man, my engineer wasn't so. That one engineer is not so bad. He at least gave notice and left on good terms. But
True.
nonetheless, it just shows you like there's just because it's so cutthroat, because the demand is so high, and because our wonderful government continues to give people more and more money, staying home becomes a challenge finding good.
Yeah.
And not to say that some of those people that are home aren't deserving. There are obviously people that need to have that. But on the flip side, we are ready to knock it
Right.
out of
It's
the
ready. It's
park.
ready to go. We're ready
Yeah,
to.
let's let's figure this out. Let's figure out something for the workforce issue that we're facing in America.
Sure. And you know, uh, I noticed a couple months ago you sent us an email saying you were looking for, wondering if Graf Pinkerton knew of any blue chips out there, and for, I don't know, was it setup person, engineering, or
Yeah, we're always looking for good
so
people.
this is that something you normally do? You kind of just go to your network and
Oh
try
yeah.
to, I mean, that's one way you're finding people.
Mhm. LinkedIn is another way. And sometimes, honestly, people reach out to me, but their qualifications don't match what we're looking for, or, whatever, other reasons there may be. I interviewed someone really good, but he had a chip on his shoulder,
Mm.
and I just couldn't do it. And that's unfortunate. It's very common in our industry, having a manager that bullies the employees. If I allowed that to happen, I would be making a lot of money and having less headaches. But knowing the fact that
That's
that's
the
the way
short. That's the
managers,
short game.
that's a short game. Exactly, exactly. But that's the norm. That's becoming the norm. That has been the norm. We're trying to change that norm. We're trying to change it enough
Hmm.
that people can recognize the fact that
Well,
that's not what we're about, and that when you do work for us, that it is, your voice is being heard. You do have a sense of belonging. No matter what background you come from.
I
And so
mean, I will say, like, I called you guys. I saw on the online you had a Doosan for sale, a used
mhm.
Doosan, and we were just like, "Ooh, bingo! This could be an interesting thing for us to buy." And I called. It turned out your price was like, it's kind of like the price we might ask. It was like
Mhm.
a fair price, but it
Mhm.
wasn't quite good enough for us to just like buy it for stock. But anyways, I talked to the woman answering the phone. I think she had been there just a very short time, and she was like just ecstatic about working there. She was just like, I love this place. I love every day. Like every day is like the greatest thing, going to work.
Did she know about this interview coming? Like, was this like supposed to
No,
like?
this was months ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
wondering. Yeah,
No,
no, I
there's
know who
no
you're talking about.
conspiracy.
I know who you're talking about because she
Is she
was,
Polish, I think, maybe? I
yeah,
can't
she's
remember.
Polish descent. Her name is Karina, actually. So out those that are looking to poach her, her name is Karina. She's the buyer slash planner, and she's literally one of my right hands. She's just a rock star, and it's she gets acknowledged. She gets the pat on the back. She's rewarded financially. She's got her incentives, and she's happy, and she appreciates it. She, during the
There's
furloughing.
nothing more than that. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
there's
that's what I thought. That's what you think. But then if somebody out there pays, $1 more, 50 cents more, and they're jumping ship, or is able to do something that I'm not able to do, because now they're becoming so creative. It's like, what are they offering? Like even like overtime. So we give overtime. We give a minimum of 10 hours overtime for all our shop employees. Even during COVID, we did not cut that off.
Wow.
Minimum 10 hours. If you come in on Saturday, it'll be 15 hours. So that's great, right? And people are very grateful for it. But then it's like, okay, with the holiday, do you pay 8 hours, or do you pay the overtime by day or by week? And I know that there's some people out there, but that was like the decision between working for me and not. And it's just like, I can't, like, you know, I have to take a step back, and I have to be okay with the decisions I make.
Yeah.
And then there's days that I take a step back and say, okay, let me reassess this. Let me figure out how I can be a better employer. But making that decision on the spot and being the decision making, and then, but looking at the history and saying, okay, well, this employer
Yeah.
really does pay, 10 hours overtime. Like, talk to my people. And that's how
Well,
I get employees, is that
I'm
the
just
best.
telling you, I talked to this woman and it did not seem like she was happy because she was getting paid well, or,
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like that, yeah, sure, everybody wants to be paid well. And if you're not paid well, that can make somebody unhappy. But
Yeah,
like, to me, it sounded like there was maybe she was just extraordinary and she's one of your best people. But
yeah, yeah. I have some people like that. I
she
do
just
have
seemed, it
people
seemed
that
like it was more than just, oh, I make good money here and,
yeah, yeah,
I like my boss. It was like, this place is amazing. Do you
yeah.
have, you, let's,
It is amazing. Don't let me disagree with you. It is amazing.
um, all right. I'm gonna
My
back.
humility is coming, it's just shining out right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's back up
Hmm.
to another thing you said in the last interview. Um,
Uh-oh. What did I say?
I know. Careful. Um, you, you know, we um, we talked to so many people in this podcast, and so few are women.
Mm.
And that's partly maybe because of me. I'm not like doing a good enough job of finding enough women. I'm just like trying to like get somebody half the time.
Yeah,
Um
that makes me feel special.
uh,
Just a
on the
body,
one hand, and on the
someone
other
with a
hand, no.
pulse. Someone with a pulse, as long as they can answer questions.
Yeah.
Go
um
ahead, go ahead. It's all right. I won't hold it
well,
against.
no, if it's a woman and she has a pulse,
Oh
wow,
wow,
bingo.
that's like credentials.
Tell me about it. Yeah. So um well, before you go any further,
Yeah.
I was wondering this. I'm sure you get other people like me, and they want to talk to you as a woman in machining, a woman, um, owner of a company. Uh, do you get tired of that? You want it to just be like, look, I own a kick-ass machine shop, um, and I happen to be a woman. I happen to be
Hmm.
Muslim. Like
Yeah.
enough of that. Just
Yeah.
talk to me about the nuts and bolts.
Yeah. Yeah. So it depends, right? So I like to talk about the women aspect when empowering women, when educating or inspiring uh, leaders in the community, whether it be manufacturing or elsewhere, in male dominated industries, right? So I like to talk to that, because I feel like many people don't recognize the fact that the workforce that we need, if we don't get women into the workforce, if we don't inspire them, if we don't make them feel like they belong, then that workforce pool is this big instead of
Exactly.
this big. So there's a motive there as an employer, But then there's also, I feel like it's a responsibility to promote the industry, whether it be women or
Sure.
younger generation or people from the inner city that may have not considered manufacturing. So outreach is part of my core values at my
Got you.
company. And so that part of that is me speaking, regularly outside my four walls and encouraging people to find that sense of belonging.
And what do you do? What, for instance, what are you well, in what venues are you?
All different venues. I'm considered a paid speaker now. It's my second career.
Awesome.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I was like, really? Are you sure? And they're like, no, no, we want you. I'm like, okay, great. So now I've done it enough that I feel confident enough to do it over and over. And part of doing it, in the beginning, it was just giving back. It wasn't about me having it as a side job, it was just giving back. But then I felt like, wow, I'm being offered this. And it's a double,
And so what are you saying when you
when I
do?
speak.
Yeah.
So I talk about my life, I talk about my story, and I explain the fact that it is a male dominated industry. It's like there's no like hiding that.
Sure.
But I hang with the guys and they're not monsters, and we cannot portray them as villains and expect them to accept us. So it can't be a male bashing event either. And I
Yeah.
know like many times they do a double look, like, is she for real? Because everybody wants to come in with their war stories. That everybody wants to come in and say, "Oh my God, this guy treated me so badly."
Right. They
Oh,
want to make it adversarial.
so and that's okay.
Yeah.
You go get through that, and nobody denies anyone's pain, but everybody and their mothers have gone through pain. Everybody, even the white old male, has gone through pain. So are we going to just be victims? Are we always going to be just blaming people for where we're at, or are we just going to bulldoze through it and let the results speak for themselves?
Yeah.
And so there are always going to be people that are haters, and there are going to be people in the industry. It's going to be your employer at times, it's going to be your coworkers, it's going to be people in your family. You're going to always have haters,
Yeah.
but it's like really just like saying, okay, I got to find a plan B. This isn't working for me. This is a toxic environment. I know I have skills, I know I bring value. Let me go find a plan B. So it's on us to find a plan B. Just like I left my dad's company when I was 23 years old. I was making six figures. There was no reason for me to leave. I was okay. Why would I want to go into a hellhole and figure out machining, and when I was making good money and sitting behind a desk and taking my kids home every day? Like, obviously, I needed to find my plan B. And so, do I blame my dad? Am I going to play the victim? No, I'm not. I'm just, he has his limitations. And back then in the 90s, women in this industry, I had truck drivers whistling at me. I'm like, dude, I pay the bill. Go away.
Okay. So,
So yeah,
so
but just to answer your
yeah,
question,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
important that we make everyone feel as if they belong. It's important as leaders, as business owners, as managers, we need to make sure that everyone in our team is being heard and respected. That's not negotiable. But as women, as whatever minority, whatever, if you're the only in the room, if you're willing to be that only, if you're willing to go into that industry, the last thing you want is to just look for reasons to blame others. And
Yeah.
that's my message.
Sure. No, that I I I can see why you would feel the purpose and motivation to do that. Even if it does, even if she does get pigeonholed and, oh, this is the chick who talks about women in manufacturing.
We don't call each other chicks, but yeah.
Sorry. It was for
It's
irony. That
okay.
was my
We
whole
won't hold
time.
it against you. At least
Thanks.
I won't. I don't know about your audience, but I
It's
won't hold it
Spanish, chica. Um, so
against. Yeah.
okay. you have a, a decent amount of women working in your shop compared to elsewhere, correct?
Mhm.
Do you know any, like, can you name any sort of percent of people that work there that are women? You never broken that down, or?
We were at 50%. Um, I have two women that retired last week. One was my VP of sales, and the other was someone on the shop floor. So we have less women today, and we're
Mhm.
only 31 people, 32.
Only 31 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So having 50% would be 15 women. I think we're at probably 12 at this.
Okay.
And that's
And
everything. That's from management to shop floor.
how many are the women pretty spread out between the two, or is it more in one or the other?
No, they're spread out. They're everywhere.
They're
Uh,
everywhere.
they're everywhere. You can't hide from them.
51%.
I had, yeah, you know what? I care about getting a quality product to my customer. And
Yeah.
so I want everyone that walks into my door to feel like they belong. And if it's, a Latino, a guy, a lady, an old white guy. Like when John Schaefer, one of my employees, retired, he was the only white guy, old white guy that worked for me. And it was so funny because we joked about it. And I don't want anyone taking offense to this because I recognize him more than that. He was a kick ass operator setup guy, but it was time for him to retire. And so he was always joking with me. He's like, I'm the minority here. This is the first time I've ever been the minority. And I was like, welcome to my
Yeah,
world.
it's good for you.
It
My high
is good
school
for
was 80% black when I graduated, so I've
see,
it's good for you.
it
It's
is
not
good for you.
easy.
But he really appreciated. He says that he's never, and I don't want to speak for him, but he was one of the IMTS when they came to interview us. He was one of the guys or people that were interviewed, and I'll quote or paraphrase what he said, and it's just like, I've never worked for a woman machine shop owner, and she cares and she listens, and she just went on, and I honestly, like, even though him and I talked regularly, when I watched the video, I was teared up by what he said. And then I went to him and I said, it was great that you talked to them. He's like, I guess they picked me because I was the only old white guy. And they wanted to make sure that maybe you represent, like, we have some of them here. But, it's just a matter of him along with the young, you know, woman, along with the African American employees that I have. They all feel like they belong. They all feel like we care about them. There's
Mhm.
room for development. There's room for growth. If you're going to work hard, and you're going to come into work every day, you're going to be recognized. It's not just like, oh, okay, this is my clique. These are my, favorites because
Mhm.
they look a certain way.
How do you
And
do that though? How do you make it so people feel don't get into clicks?
yeah, so we've had clicks and we've struggled with that as well. And I have
That's what
like
people do.
yeah, so I have the people that have been with me the longest. I have like about 6 people that have been with me for 25 years plus. And then I have people that have been with me for months or a few years. And so then you have, during lunch, you'll see all of this, right? But as long as it comes from the top, is where I believe. Like if I'm out on the shop floor, I spend just as much time with someone that's been with me for less than a year than with someone that's been with me for over 20. And it's just like if I'm, like on a hot day, I'll have like water bottles, I'll pass out, or
Mhm.
I'll like, just stand there and like just randomly just go by someone, say, how you doing today? How was your weekend? How's your family? And like genuinely care about them and their lives. And I feel like that makes the relationship, and it's not like you're just a number, you're not just running a machine.
Well,
And
I mean, that's great, but how do you make them still not clicky amongst themselves though?
so yeah, so if I'm doing that, and if I, we don't we don't make anyone do anything. We just lead by example. And so
Okay.
if I'm not clicky with some people, then it kind of like sends a message, an indirect message that this is the way we are. And in all honesty,
Because I would have just figured, oh, well, you're the boss, so you're different. Then, yeah, obviously the
not
boss is
necessarily.
going to
I'm a
talk
very
to everybody.
hands-on. I'm there every day. I'm very hands-on, and I just, it's just a matter of I don't feel like that's an issue today. I know that it was an issue before. I remember it was very painful because all the new people were like, anybody new, they didn't feel like they clicked with anyone. And
Hmm.
so it's just a matter of, like, I'll give you an example. Like the engineers will have lunch together. And so the quality manager and the engineers have lunch together. That's a click. They eat lunch together because they love talking to each other. They have so much in common. I'm not
Yeah,
going to go in there and say, "Hey, you know what, Mr. Engineer, have your lunch at 12 with the shop people." I'm not going to do that.
of course
But
not.
yeah, exactly. So what ends up happening is that when the engineers are on the shop floor and I'm on the shop floor and we're in a little huddle and we're talking and we're joking and we're getting business done, it becomes comfortable doing that. It's not just like one word answers. The huddles are more than that. And so and or I'll bring up, like, I'm a jokester. Like I should do stand-up comedian. I'm like, that would be my passion after manufacturing. But I'll joke about something or I'll kid with someone in a very respectful manner. If I'm ever borderline, it's about me or someone in my family and not them. But that'll open up the door of people also feeling comfortable to talk. And then all of a sudden, the click isn't a click. It's just like the way that the cultural is like we're very, open and not so, we're a little bit laid back when it comes to that. But we're also, about processes. And obviously, I don't want to make
Well,
it
what would you
sound like
do if you had one guy or girl who
we're.
was one man or one woman who was just
you're
being,
you're walking on eggshells. I can see it.
no, I'm not walking on eggshells.
Okay,
I don't
don't,
care.
don't. Just talk freely. It's fine. You're not gonna offend me.
No, I
If you do, you'll know.
what if you have somebody who's just being a punk
Yeah.
and you know that they're valuable to you, but
Huh.
they're just they're not, and I mean, maybe um it's just something that's going on for them personally at this point in their life, or maybe it's a temporary thing, but they're just they're messing up the feng
Oh,
shui
yeah.
of everything. How is that something you would get into, or your
Well,
HR, or
if anything happens in front of me, or I pick up on things, like signals that people are a certain way, I've fired people that were making me a lot of money.
yeah,
And even my team questioned, like, what are you doing? Uh, but it was based on principle,
yeah,
based on how I want to run my company. But then people do have bad days. I've had people that had bad days and been disrespectful to me, like the way they talk to me, or how short they are, or like the rolling of the eyes at times, or the hand up in the air. I've seen it. I'm there every day. I see it.
yeah,
But you give people the benefit of the doubt that it's a bad day. And then
sure,
in my one-on-one with them, if I have a one-on-one with them, depending on their position, I'll bring it up and I'll be like, you know what, I understand or I'll ask them, is everything okay? And if they open up, great. If they don't, I'll make sure that you had a freebie. Don't let it happen again. And so, you know what? I've been called a hard boss, a slave driver. I've been called so much jokingly, and all, and like after they leave or after whatever is like, and I'm okay with that. I know what it takes to run a company. I know what I expect of myself and my team, and I'm very transparent about it. I don't sugarcoat it. I don't come through the back door. And if
yeah.
people aren't okay with it, I'm okay with that. I just have
Um,
to move on.
Okay, so as we said before, you have around half the people working there are women. You have some African American people.
Mhm.
You mentioned that's also a very underrepresented group in
Yeah.
our industry. So, how are you able to attract people of this demographic, and not only that, but attract high quality people um, to come to the company to give it a shot? I mean, you've talked about making people feel comfortable, making it a good environment for them. Okay, awesome. But if you need to get, if you're trying to get some more people and they happen to be in these people that may, in these groups that may not see this as, you know, an opportunity, how are you finding them?
So there's the word of mouth. When you hire someone and you treat them well, they will tell their friends.
Hmm.
And I don't like taking people that are working for my competitors and getting the word out that way. But if they come and apply to my company, it becomes, like their friend already knows what the expectation is, and it's easier to explain to them what the expectation is and set that expectation, make sure that we're aligned. A big thing is obviously the internet. People go on to, like, employees, future employees or prospect employees, go on our Facebook or go on our, LinkedIn, depending on the position, depending on, their level of interaction on social media. And so it's just a matter of really just continuously driving the fact that we're making meaningful things. We're making, we care about our people. Yesterday we went on an event, we went on a boat ride and we took all our employees with their families. And so
Cool.
I had a couple of people that weren't here last time that we did that, because we couldn't do it last year. We did it 2 years ago. Like, literally shaking my hand and thanking me. My God, this has been great. Thank you so much. That's things that some companies do and some companies don't. And it's funny because even though I invite some of my family members to come, I don't invite many of them, because I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to my team and their families and getting to know them. And there's nothing like breaking bread with people. It's like just sitting down,
Yeah.
talking, and just so then when they see that, they see the transparency, they see me being vulnerable even at times. I feel like I make that connection, and then it's easier for them to get the word out, because if they worked, they know people in the industry. And
Right.
then, and honestly, our rock stars many times are the people that have never tried manufacturing. I have an intern, I have a apprentice who's never been in a manufacturing facility, and he knows how to run Swiss, he knows how to run turning centers, he
And so
knows
where
how
did
to
he come from?
COD, College of DuPage. And that's, again, goes back to the outreach.
So
When you're
College of DuPage, and then word of mouth from somebody else. They said,
Well, it started at College Page for him. And we were actually interviewing apprentices that applied to work for us. But it was my partnership with College of DuPage that it was a pilot program, an apprenticeship program. They're the biggest, community college in Illinois, and
hmm,
so it's like you get like all these, different backgrounds, and so we had people from all different backgrounds that were interviewing for the apprenticeship program. And it was, honestly, it was like one of the best hires. And I don't mind paying for his education, because he's, in my shop working, learning, giving back. He actually, I have a skeleton night shift, and right now we have someone that's going to be on vacation, and he offered to work the night shift. Like, who
nice.
does that? Who does that? So it was just like this apprentice who's knows now more than someone that has been working in the industry for a few years, because he's taking the time and learning and giving back. So when you have that type of a relationship, it makes things a lot easier. The flow is better. And really,
But you're saying, but what you're saying is, though, it's just a lot of it is, if you already have people with good experience, then you get a lot of good word of mouth, and that is Is it is that yield more, you think, than just like stuff on LinkedIn, or
Yes,
it's
definitely.
just like one
Yeah.
person tells another person and
Well, my quality, there was a quality technician that I hired that loved working for us, right? Then he knew the quality manager that he worked for wasn't happy, goes and tells the quality manager, hey, and then it turns out that one of my operators also knew the guy. And when the guy interviewed, I didn't know any of this. And when he was like ready to take my job offer after I met him, and I was like, so, I'm asking, I'm trying to get like, how did he know about us? Like, what does he know? Like, because he had the credentials. And so the quality technician that worked for me actually ended up leaving. And the quality manager is like one of the best quality managers I've ever met. And it's just like, I would have never known him if not for the technician that ended up not being a good fit for me. So you don't know. It's like networking. You just don't know what door is gonna open. It's like when you meet someone, you may not like them at first, but you just
mhm,
don't know what will develop from the relationship, who that
absolutely
person knows. And it's the same thing on your shop floor or your with your employees.
interesting. You mentioned African American people.
Mhm.
There's Why do you think there's so few African American people in our in our business?
Well, I just think that there's not been exposure
Yeah.
to that. I think that typically, the white male paved the way for manufacturers. Like that, that's who was manufacturing until Rosie the Riveter, when the men went out to go to war, then
Ah.
women had to join in, and those women were the wives of those men. So it wasn't like we were broadcasting manufacturing everywhere, but at the same time, acknowledging the fact that it has been the white male that has paved the way, that set up those old machines, that got those, parts or whatnot, whatever processes they had to go through at the time when it was old, grimy, dirty. And so now that it's very high tech and a lot more modern and cleaner, there's no reason why, we others shouldn't be, enticed to come into this industry, because we didn't really treat manufacturers very well back in the 80s and 90s. They were not making lucrative, amount of money, and they weren't being recognized like they are today. And we're paying for it. I believe that we really are the ones that hurt ourselves the most, overworking our people and underpaying them. And that was
hmm
the industry. Why would anybody want to be part of that industry?
Do you think? I mean, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. It's interesting to ask people what their pay range is for employees.
So our pay range is anywhere from $17
Yeah.
to, obviously, management's over six figure. So
hmm
I'm okay with saying that. At one point it was less. And we need to be very selective. And I've learned to not shy away from making money. I want my doors open, but I want to be making money. And if we make bad parts, a lot of bad parts, or something goes wrong, I don't want my company to be on the verge of bankruptcy because margins are so tight. So there's nothing wrong with being selective on who our customers are, what industries we serve, what types of parts. And that's
Yeah.
why I went into Swiss machining. I feel like I'm bringing more value in high precision, tight tolerances, and so I should get paid better. And in doing that, if I'm getting paid better, my team should get paid better.
Sure.
It trickles down.
You've gotten rid of all your manual uh, equipment,
Only the
not
centerless grinders. The centerless grinders are still manual, but that brings us. That's like we're holding 1 to 2 tons tolerance on a machine that was built in the 40s. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's manual, but it's a great add-on because we do all our bar grinding We do all
Hmm.
our piece part grinding. We do send some stuff out when when the backlog is long.
The
But
people who do that, do you pay those people more because they're dealing with the not
we
CNC stuff?
so the non-CNC workers were making less than the CNC workers, but the grinding department was obviously they are making good. They're
Mhm.
I the guy that's running my grinding department's been with me for like 30 years. So it's
Wow.
not like he
Well,
knows precision, he knows grinding.
well, what I'm finding is several of the people I've talked to, they pay the people that run the cam screw machines more than the people that run the CNC machines because
It's more
it
labor intense.
it's more difficult
Yeah.
and less people want to do it.
Yeah. So I've gotten rid of all of those. It's just the grinders. And at
Yeah.
that point I would say they bring just as much value as the CNC. There is more labor like with the bars, I would say. But as far as it's not like a cam. It's not like a cam machine. It's not like, multi spindles or Brown and Sharps.
Yeah, no, no, it
Very
is
different.
sure. Um, do you have any advice for people that are, I mean, obviously it's different depending on where you are in the country and how big your shop is and not, but say you're a shop and you business is pretty good now,
Hmm.
um, but you're just fighting to compete with others, and maybe you don't have quite the, seems like you've gotten a reputation that you've really worked on for a long time, which is reaping you benefits. um do you have some sort of like a shorter term thing somebody could do, because obviously they don't have years, you don't know when, how long this boom is going to last? What
Yeah.
would you do if you were in a new place and you didn't know anybody but you had like a good operation going? What would be a sort of a hack you could do, or a
It's going
trick,
to
or
sound like a plug, and it is, but it's also authentic.
yeah.
PMPA. PMPA. It's you're networking with your competitors. Like Nick Wren, very new to the industry, Jim Wren's son from Hudson
Ah,
Screw, says this association is the balance between camaraderie and competition.
it is a really cool
It is.
thing.
And when he said that, I was like, that it nails it. Like that's exactly what it is. During COVID, when as members, we had members that were making parts for ventilators that needed gauges, and they would have like there was one member specifically that emailed the listserv and said, I have machines that are going to go down if I don't get this gauge. Does anyone have it? He had like a dozen of his competitors, people from the listserv, willing and just was going to ship them the part next day air at their expense. Like, where do you see that? Like who? Like your competitor is going to help you? Like, where do you
Yeah,
see that? But that camaraderie and respect and the sharing of knowledge and sharing of gauges and tools and expertise. It's
it's
just
an
like
amazing thing.
it is an amazing thing. And so that's what I did when I lost 90% of my business back in 2012, before we were CNC, before we became modern. I was wondering what was
How
everyone else.
did you lose 90% of your business in 2012?
Five of my top customers were bought out by a big OEM literally within 6 months. And so instead of being competitors, they have then became all in one
Oh
company.
no.
Yeah. And that's why you need to diversify not only your customer base, but your industries, because they were all in one little industry,
What was the industry?
HVAC.
Okay.
And so motors, rotors.
So
Uh,
then what did you do?
I had to make a decision, and I was on YouTube and Google and trying to figure out what do people do. And one of the things that I did is I joined the association. I remember one of the members saying, geez, your place is like so old and you got all these old machines. Where are your CNC machines? I'm like, I don't want any. Just sounds so complicated. I didn't want any. But at that point, I was like, you know what? I gotta get out of my comfort zone. And so I was on YouTube and I saw precision machining. That's what I was
Mm-hmm.
looking for. And I saw Swiss, and I went to two dealers. One coincidentally had an open house, like right around when I was
New
starting to
new
look.
dealers, new
New
or used?
machine dealers.
Yeah, yeah.
At that point, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just wanted to look at them. And so I went to one, and unfortunately for them, they didn't treat me very well. I walked into their open house and talked to my uh, VP of operations, talked to my
Mm.
production manager, and I was like, can I look at your 20 millimeter machine? Because I really, I've seen it on YouTube and it's like seems like a good fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then they would look over by the other guy. And so I didn't even take offense to it. I was like, I don't care.
Why
No,
did they see you as a woman in a hijab
I
and
don't
go, "Who
know.
the hell are
You know
you?"
what? I don't know what their intentions or their perception was, but I just know what they did. And even after that,
What a bunch of stupid people.
I know. And to this day, they say, "Hi, are you buying more machines?" I'm like, "Yeah, Star is awesome." And they were awesome from day one.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know where I would be without Star. They just
Stars are great. I mean, but whenever people ask me which one should I buy, Star, Citizen, Tsugami, whatever, I just say, look, they're all pretty good. Just buy the one from the people that are,
yes,
in your area, know what they're doing,
know what they're doing, will
and it
service
will
you, will
service
take care
you.
of you. Dave Polito and locally and Dinu from New York have
Yeah, I've
been,
met those guys. Yeah.
they are just like this guy like came into my shop on a Sunday. I had contingency. I had prints like this thick that when I bought my first two machines from them. And I said, first I had them give me cycle times. They gave me cycle times. And mind you, these were prints I didn't even have orders for. I was just like, these are parts that I know quoted because I can't make them. So I'm going to put them as a contingency and I'm going to buy the raw material and they're going to take care of everything else. And that was my condition. And they thought I was crazy. But there were some parts that we were running on our old machines that we could not keep up, and we were doing secondary operations.
Mm-hmm.
So this was our way of taking away the secondary operations and making it complete off this Swiss.
Sure.
And so then when they came in, the first sets of contingent parts were ones that I had orders for and had to meet deliveries. And with the transition, powering them up and getting them, set up and all of that, that took some time. So I had Dinu in my shop on a Sunday with his silk shirt. I will never forget this. And like we had oil and he had like his
Who wears silk
head in the
shirts?
machine. What?
I said, who wears silk shirts? This is
Stop.
the
He
90s?
he looked great. Talk about him. I won't allow it. And
Okay.
he kicked ass. He had his people there and they couldn't get it up and running fast enough. So he was like, I'll come in. And he came in. He flew people in from New York daily to figure out what we needed. They all did. They all introduced, even Mark Stevens, he was introducing me to tool makers, everybody from Sandvik to whatever. And I was just like, what are these tools and how do you buy them? And where's the form tool? Where's the cutoff? Like I
Sure.
didn't, this is all new. And so they literally taught my team and I, whoever wanted to learn, the processes of making parts off of the Swiss. And Dino did it firsthand, and he had his people on my shop floor for months without like there was no sign the dotted line like you have to do this. This was like, I'm in trouble. I have to meet a delivery. Can you help me? Send me the print. We'll take care of it. They sent me the program. They
Yeah.
came in. They loaded it up. They helped set it up. They helped my guys learn.
That's called playing the long game.
And that's why I bought 25 machines from them and will buy more.
Wow. Nice. Which ones do you have? The 20 millimeters SR20s.
10 millimeters all the way to 38 millimeters. I had and everything in between. We have the 20 R4s, we have the 20 R2s and 3s, and we have 32 millimeters, 38 millimeter. 38 millimeter, that was a like godsend. I have two of them. I love them to death. Just like the parts that come off of that, because they're not real
Six
small, they're
six
big.
axis plus
Yeah.
two C axis.
Oh man, it's beautiful. It's it's just like what comes out of that machine, and the level of precision, and
Yeah.
then being like 1.5 inch diameter, and not just like the small parts. It's beautiful, and I prefer that over my turning centers every day. The turning centers
Yeah.
I've not been as successful. I have, obviously we make cool parts off of them, but not nearly as high precision. And even the industries we serve on those are, they're okay. But the Swiss machining is all about high precision. And they've just been a great partners. I can call Star anytime, and I know they have my back. Whether it's maintenance, like preventive maintenance, whether it's, I have a machine down and needs a part, ship it out of New York. They take care of me. So, and that's something I don't take lightly.
No, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that they just think that they have you because maybe you have one of their machines, and then they know that you'll come back or whatever, but it's not. You can't take anybody for granted.
No, you can't. And then you also, I think that what they've learned is they're good people. They're not deceitful. They're not trying to pull anything over on you. They're just good people. And if you have that, no matter what, obviously I'm a fan of Star Machines and the people from Star, from anywhere from New York to Chicago, but nonetheless, it's about developing. It goes back to what you said earlier. Who's going to take care of you? Who can you call and is going to really care that you're down? And if they don't care,
Yeah.
and if they're not looking to help you and support you, then they're not a partner. They're just a machine dealer and not a partner.
True. True. Uh just a couple other questions. What's something that you learned in the last week?
Last week,
Or
um, I'm a big fan of Seth Godin.
big
And
fan myself.
yeah, I really like him, and I loved his one of his blogs about it's not luck. It's like something. It's not nothing about luck. I'm gonna mess this up, but it's not anything I think new that I learned, but it's like just a confirmation of what you go through, and you just realize that yeah, the smart people really know what they're doing, and my experience aligns to it. And so it's about showing up, and it's about delivering, and it's, luck is like if I'm in a situation and I got the order or I got the employee, it's not about luck. It may be once about luck, but it's not. It's about preparation. It's about giving. It's about building. It's about, that. And I think that it's constant for me. I always try to develop myself, develop my skills, my social skills, my speaking skills, my leadership skills, and hope that fits right with who I am and who I want to be. And it's all about creating a legacy. Now I'm in my 50s. I'm now looking to look back at what I've done and what I'm continuing to do, and not just make cool parts, but leave a positive impact and help
Yeah.
people. Money is great, and I've had my highs and I've had my lows, but that's never the source of my happiness. And it's not because I don't love great stuff and love to be paying off my debt or buying a nice car. Of course I love that, but knowing that I've done right by people, whether it's my family, my employees, my customers, suppliers, it makes me feel good, and it makes me feel like I'm on my way to better and greater things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Um
feel like, you know
anything else that you feel like you need to say to the people of the world?
people of the world. They're all listening right now. So I want
Potentially, they could
well,
be.
you never know. You never know. So this was not scripted at all, just for the record. And none of these questions were sent to me, just so everyone knows. But Noah is that good of an interviewer.
Well, appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. No, this is a pleasure. I love doing this. This is
Oh, it's so
if
much
I had
fun
more
talking to
hours.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so the National Tech Conference is August and
PMPA.
PMPA, National Tech Conference, August 6th, I think, to 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 10th to, I think, 12th or 13th is, I should know these dates, the PMTS.
I
So,
will be there for
yes, you
sure.
will. And a lot of great people are going to be there, and we're going to get a lot of great information. I'm one of the panelists on the continuous improvement panel.
And you're going to be the presidente soon.
I
When's
am
your coronation?
October. It's going to be an annual.
October. They
Yeah,
call it the coronation, right?
yeah. Call it
Inauguration.
something. Yeah, it's when you know, more responsibilities, but a lot more fun.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Same here. Thank you, Noah.